Hello, it's Thursday, July 9, and today our scripture reading is 1 Samuel chapter 20. I think it'd be a great idea if you read that passage on your own. I've got a link to 1 Samuel 20 in the description of this video if you want to read online. In 1 Samuel 20, we have a story about David, whom God has chosen to be the next king, and about Jonathan, who is the son of Saul, the current king. And Jonathan and David have become the best of friends. And this is really an interesting thing, because the way things would normally work, Jonathan would be the next king. He's the son of the king. And his father Saul, in his anger at David, his jealousy of David, says this to Jonathan: "As long as the son of Jesse, meaning David, lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established." But Jonathan, we see, isn't worried about himself or about his kingdom. He's worried about his friend, David, and really he's worried about God's kingdom, that God has chosen David to be the leader of God's people. And so Jonathan gives up his claim to be king. He gives up his rights for the sake of David and for the sake of God's people, for the sake of carrying out God's plan. And in some ways, we see this paralleled in the life of Jesus, that Jesus works for God's kingdom. Now, Jesus himself is the king, which makes him different than Jonathan, but Jesus is willing to come and to suffer and to die, to give up his right to avoid suffering and to exercise all of his might. He comes humbly and suffers for us to establish his kingdom. To give us forgiveness of sins, to triumph over the powers of evil. Jesus sets aside his power and his privileges and his rights to serve us for a time, to serve God's kingdom. And so Jesus calls us then, out of love for him and the fact that he saved us, he calls us to be willing to set aside our rights, to set aside our self-interest, to serve him, to serve God's kingdom, because that's really what's best for us in the end. So in Jonathan, we see an example of the love of Jesus for us. That's what I thought about today. If you've got thoughts, comments, questions, please feel free to share them. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.